Hi friends, this video is chapter 29th of Right to Recall Party Manifesto. Right to Recall Party Manifesto you can download from rahulmehta.com/301.htm. I repeat, rahulmehta.com/301.htm. The chapter is about weaponization of commons. Right to bear gun, as some people call it, I call it weaponization of commons. That is, citizens should have guns. Reason: it reduces crimes, reduces government atrocity, reduces crimes, reduces government atrocity, welfare state, many benefits, and most important, current situation point of view, the possibility of two-front war. There is a possibility of two-front war, that is, Pakistan and China may get together and attack India. Why? Very many reasons. Because when America will attack Iran, at that time China will have to join the war to support Iran, and USA is strong enough and deep entrenched enough that it will motivate Pakistan to attack India, so that India has to attack Pakistan, and Pakistan will join China, and therefore India will have to join USA. So now, if we have to join USA, then what will happen is that USA will ensure that India gets destroyed by Pakistan and China as much as possible, and in the end USA will come to help India. When everything is destroyed, at that time US will come and help India, so that later it can take over India. So to reduce that possibility, we have to prepare for a situation where we do not become dependent on US at all. And one way to deter the war is to give weapons, guns, to each and every 75 crore adult Indian. India's population is about 123 crore, of which 76 crore population is adult. So if every adult in India has a gun, then Pakistani army or Chinese army can, or Air Force can destroy infrastructure such as power station, bridges, etc. But they cannot capture the territory. They cannot move much deep inside the territory if every citizen has guns. So one interesting thing about right to bear weapons is that Mohan Bhai, only in this chapter I use word Mahatma Gandhi because he said a good thing. As such, he was a Duratma Gandhi, but he said a good thing. Of course, he never meant it. He was a hypocrite when he said this. In 1935, Gandhi, Vallabhbhai Patel, in this particular chapter I call him Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, and Jawaharlal Nehru, in 1931, Karachi Adhiveshan, Congress Karachi Adhiveshan, they passed a written resolution that Britishers should make Constitution of India, and this was a demand. And in the Constitution, right to bear weapon should be a fundamental right. Fundamental right means uncompromisable right, as important as right to life. Of course, they never meant it. Then why did they say it? Because Mahatma Bhagat Singh, the views of Ahimsa Murti Mahatma Bhagat Singh were becoming very popular across India, and Ahimsa Murti Mahatma Bhagat Singh believed in weaponization of commons, real empowerment of citizens. So to create an image that, oh yes, we also believe in empowerment, we also believe in strong citizenry, Mohan Bhai and Jawaharlal and Vallabhbhai Patel, they said, okay, we will also demand right to bear weapons. But as we know that when India became independent, they did nothing about it. Duratma Gandhi lived for about 7, 8, 9 months, he did nothing. Vallabhbhai Patel lived for about 2-3 years, he did nothing to make right to weapon a fundamental right. And Jawaharlal Ghazi not only lived, but he was Prime Minister for about 12-13 years, and he did nothing to make right to bear weapons a fundamental right. Now, in my proposal, right to bear weapon becomes a fundamental right as well as fundamental duty, that a person will be required to have gun in his home, which is the law in Switzerland. In Switzerland, a citizen is required to have a gun in his home, and if he does not have gun and 24 bullets, again this law 24 number, I am not cooking myself, it's the law of Switzerland, that if a person does not have a gun and 24 bullets in his home, he can be punished. So we should make a similar law that a person will be allowed to have at most 2 guns. If he wants to buy third gun, he will have to sell one of the 2, and he will have to have at least 1 gun. First we'll make it compulsory for a person whose income is above 4 lakh, and then go all the way down. So how will financing happen? That once the gun industry is delicensed, that is anyone can make any number of guns. At that time the manufacturing cost of guns will drop. The people who are making katta today, the same people will become capable of becoming guns. Why can't they make good guns today? Because they are not allowed to have the machines which can be using which one can make good guns. But once all those machines are delicensed, or any person, any good industrialist, medium scale industrialist will be able to enter gun manufacturing business. Within 6 months it is possible to manufacture 200-300 crore guns and make sure that every Indian has 1, 2 or 3, 4 guns. And same way bullets. Once the bullet manufacturing is delicensed, there will be crores and crores of bullets all over. Now, the weaponization of commons is the mother of democracy. How democracy came in Greece? First of all, in Greece there was slavery. Some 70% population of Athens was slave, and some 20-25% were citizens. But amongst the citizens, they all had voting rights and jury system, etc. Repression was relatively less. Why? Because each Greek was required as well as trained to have weapons. Back then there was no guns, so they had weapons of that time. And then again democracy came in 950 AD in Britain in form of coroner's jury, and then came Magna Carta in 1100 AD, and that was because large number of commons had weapons. Why did they have weapons? Because the Arabs were attacking France. Arabs had already captured part of Spain and Portuguese, and on the other side they were attacking Greece and Hungary, all those areas. So in order to fight against Arab, jihad or whatever you call, the priests as well as kings realized that we now have to train large number of commons, almost entire population, with weapons. So when whole population was trained with weapons, it was not possible to suppress them easily, and therefore conflict between police and common men started increasing, conflict between military and common men started increasing, and therefore the jury system came. The jury system for the first time in European history, means after the decline of Roman Empire, established that people will be more powerful than police. How? That if a policeman is accused of a serious crime, then 12 citizens will be chosen at random, of which if 7 people say that policeman's conduct was criminal, he will be expelled. This coroner's jury system came in UK in 950 AD, and it was because commons had huge amount of weapons. Then welfare state came because of weaponization of commons. Welfare state came in USA in 1932. Some people say that it came in Scandinavian countries before 1932, but basically it came after 1929, and it came in most regimented and visible form in USA in 1932. Why? Because of Great Depression, that a lot of people lost job and they were about to lose houses. So immediately American elite realized that, well, 70, 80, 90% population has weapons. If these people do not have food to eat, and if they don't have roof on their head, then they will come and start shooting at our palaces and rob our palaces or bungalows or whatever. So moment the depression came, the elite men of America started private charity work. The church started giving a lot of free food, the community center started giving free food and so forth. So they made sure that nobody sleeps hungry, otherwise hungry man with a gun does not really make a peaceful combination. And then in order to do it at large scale, they handed over the whole charity business, that is welfare state business, to government. So of course government needs money. So the laws were enacted that inheritance tax was in 1928 it was 25%, and it was raised to 70% in stages, not in one day. But income tax was 25% in 1928, and it was increased to 70% in 1936. And inheritance tax again was 20% in 1928, and it was increased to 70% in 1936. And before 1929 the wealth tax was very less, and after 1932 wealth tax at district level started increasing, and today it is around 1 to 2% of the market value of the wealth. So, but question is that why did America's elite men pass this law which would impose a tax on themselves? Because 70-80% commons in USA back then had guns. Look at the similar situation in India. Famines in West Bengal in 1940s. Some 40 lakh people died. 40 lakh people died, and Indian elite or British elite, whatever, did not do anything. Later when it reached such an extreme, ration card system started, but till 40 lakh people died practically, and all Indian elite were having enough food to eat. No elite man or no intellectual ever died of hunger. But all intellectuals back then and all elite men opposed large scale welfare measure. Why? Because those 40 lakh people did not have guns. So weaponization of commons is the source of welfare state. Then deterring the invasions. Why didn't Switzerland got invaded? See, these paid historians are really funny creature, and sometimes they are stupid. They don't sound funny, they look funny. How that you ask any historian, he will say that why Hitler did not invade Switzerland, and they will say that Hitler respected autonomy of Switzerland. So I wonder, why didn't he respect autonomy of France? Why didn't he respect autonomy of Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary? Why didn't he respect autonomy of Britain and Bulgaria and all those countries? And out of all the country, why did he respect autonomy of Switzerland, which had so much gold? All the European elites were hoarding the gold in Switzerland back then. Well, the reason is that Switzerland, since the day of William Tell is the person who assembled an army in Switzerland and kicked out all Turkish. I forgot the exact year, maybe some 1200, 1300. And even before that, there was a incident called as Templar Night. All Templar Knights all across Europe, they feared that church is going to kill them, and their fear turned out to be right for Friday the 13th, as we call it. So they all escaped to Switzerland, and in Switzerland they developed the tradition that large number of people should have arms. And in William Tell, in some 13th, 14th century, I forgot, he institutionalized this that everyone will be trained how to use weapons. So in 1938, 1939, beginning of Second World War, every Swiss person had a gun. So what the generals of Hitler advised, that if German army walks into Switzerland, then these people will escape to the mountain top. They will have advantage of height. They know the terrain better. They will keep the food in the caves of the mountain, and temperature is so low that the food does not rot there for years and years and years. So they will be at height, and they will be shoot our soldiers, and our soldiers will be dead in large numbers. There will be too large number of casualties. And back then Air Force on a hilly area was not that effective. So Hitler saw that because so many Swiss citizens have guns, he decided not to invade Switzerland. So basically, the reason why a country deters from attacking another country is guns. Similarly, why British attacked Afghanistan once and did not attack Afghanistan twice? Because Afghanistan has a tradition that every person has a gun or weapons. Today, you compare a scenario of Afghanistan with India, that in 1938 in India means India plus Pakistan, plus Bangladesh, plus Nepal, all that territory, Britishers, there were only 80,000 Britishers with weapons and some 20,000 other Britishers without weapons. Altogether, there were only 1 lakh Britishers. And they were ruling and controlling India plus Pakistan plus Bangladesh plus Nepal of about 40 crore. Today, there are more than 1 lakh American soldiers in Afghanistan, population only 3 crore, and they are not able to control Afghanistan. The way Britishers control India, nowhere close. They can't even walk into half the Afghanistan. Is not really a friendly territory to them. Why? Because everyone in Afghanistan with age of 8, 9, 10 years has guns. Taliban, of course, there is no reason to praise them, and I'm not pro-Taliban by any stretch of imagination, but Taliban has ensured that every Afghan woman also carries gun. You see pictures of Afghanistan, you will see lots of pictures of Afghan women carrying gun, and this has been for quite a few years. So because of large-scale weaponization, Afghanistan has been able to preserve somewhat of its autonomy. And of course, there are other factors like terrain. Afghanistan is getting help from Iran. It is getting weapon from China. All these factors are there. But those factors could have been with India as well. If India had developed tradition that everybody will keep gun, then Britishers would have never been able to conquer India. So weaponization of the commons is the true source of freedom from your own tyrannical government as well as outside invader. And weaponization of common is mother of revolution. Revolution happened in America in the sense welfare state. It was a revolution which succeeded without a single shot of bullet. Why? Because so many commons had bullet that elite gave up 25%, 30% income tax, 25% inheritance tax was increased to 74%. So elite gave up in form of welfare state because so many commons had weapons. Same way in Russia, Russian revolution happened because about 15%, about 12-15% Russian population had weapons. What happened is that in around 1917, 1920, some different people give different numbers and they are all approximate. Some 7-8% population had guns, of which 2-3% was very loyal to the Tsar, and the remaining population only 4% had guns. So Tsar thought, okay, I can easily overpower them because he had more guns in the sense that better trained soldier, whole regimented army, and others were scattered. But Germany gave huge amount of weapons to Lenin. So situation before 1916 was that there was hardly 1 or 2 gun for every 10-15 Communist Party member, and situation in 1917 almost became opposite. There were more guns and they were falling short of hand, Lenin. So about 10-15% population got access to guns and the Tsar got overpowered. So Russian Revolution happened because of weaponization of commons, not entire commons, some of the commons. So revolution is also mother of the weaponization of commons is also mother of revolution. In India, revolution did not happen at any point of time because only 1-2% population had weapons. Of course, it was not the case. In time of Alexander notes that his army, one regiment, not entire war, but in one specific battle, his regiment was defeated by villagers because every villager had weapons. Then, of course, he came up with when all the regiments came together, the villagers lost because Alexander had better weapons. But once upon a time, said 300 BC, almost every Indian had weapons because of which they could give such a bitter resistance against Alexander. Now comes the recent possibility of 2-front war or 3-front war, that is Bangladesh, Pakistan and China together can attack. So if, as I explained, that if every Indian has a gun, then Pakistani or Chinese army or Bangladeshi will not be able to invade too much. In fact, if we had made a rule that everyone in Northeast would be required to have a gun in 1950, then we have so many Bangladeshis in India that would not have happened. We have so many Bangladeshis in Northeast, we have so many Bangladeshis in West Bengal, mainly because commons in those areas don't have guns. So Bangladeshis come and they get top protection because Saudi Arabia gives money to all the top leaders like Chief Minister and High Court judges, relative lawyer and so forth. So Bangladeshis win the cases in court, their criminals win the case in court, and therefore they are able to grab land inch by inch by inch. But if commons had guns in large numbers, then Bangladeshi would not have been able to enter to begin with. Now a lot of intellectuals, they are agents of elite men, and therefore they say that common men should not have guns because that will increase the crime rate. Well, crime rate of US is higher by about 20%, not more. See, US 50-60% adults have gun. In India hardly 3-4% adults outside government have guns. But murder rate in US is only 20-25% higher. India, there are so many murders happening without guns. And murder rate in US is high because of drugs are banned. Because drugs are banned, so the prices of drugs have shot. And therefore the drug user or a drug dealer, drug user has to resort to a theft and all these crimes, and because of that there are wars, there are murders. And because drug war is illegal, there are gangs which compete for territory, and therefore the gang members kill each other, and therefore again there is violence. But if the drug trade is fully legalized, like in Netherlands, opium is and marijuana etc. are legal, their violent crimes in Netherlands are decreasing. I request you to Google on maximum security prison Netherlands, and you will come across article that in Netherlands maximum security prisons are decreasing day by day. Large scale weaponization decreases the crime. How? Because if everybody has gun, the criminals will not dare to get into career crime. See, there are two types of violence: spontaneous, गुस्सा आ गया, temperamental, emotional, और violence हो गई. And another is career, like extortion or robbery, etc. So career violent crimes happen only where population does not have guns. The whole argument that ban the gun, what does it mean? That take away gun from the law abiding citizen, because criminals are not going to obey the law anyway. If I say that no one should have rifle, so is criminal like Dawood or Latif or Gauli or anyone going to listen to me or listen to read that law? Did you ever see a law book in the hand of Dawood that he reads IPC? Oh, this is a crime, I should not be doing that. So all this argument that take away the ban the gun means take away the gun from all innocent and law abiding people or law fearing people, so that criminals can rob them. So how the logic works is that intellectuals are agents of all these judges and IAS, IPS. Criminals will make more money if people don't have guns. And if criminals make more money, then IAS, IPS, politicians and judges make more money, because they have guns. See, police has gun. So police can extort money from criminals. But if criminals don't have money, then there is nothing to extort. So take away guns from the common man so that criminals can go and rob the common man. And now criminals have money, so that money from criminals can come to police, and from police it can go to IAS, IPS, politicians and judges. And since intellectuals are agents of all these people, they cook up this logic that if weapon is given to everybody, then crime will increase. In all countries where gun rate is high, extortion related crimes are less, general crimes are also less. So now, what is the law I propose with respect to crime, guns? Today the law says that if you want a gun, you apply for a license, fine. License to DYSP or SP or whosoever, police commissioner, and police commissioner will decide. Now police commissioners off the record, they are told that this year you better not give more than this many license. It is an unofficial instruction, so there is no proof. But the Home Minister will tell police commissioner that this year you cannot give more than 500 licenses. So he cannot give more than 500 licenses, otherwise he will get suspended or transferred. So you get the license if you give him bribe of about 2 to 5 lakh rupees, or you have very high level political contact. So for example, in Ahmedabad, if you want gun, then either the going rate, the bribe you have to pay to the police commissioner is about 3 to 5 lakh rupees. License, if you want license for a gun, or you have to be equivalent to, in case of political connection, you have to be equivalent to a son of an MLA. If you're very high level political contact, then probably you can get the gun just by giving a bribe of 10, 15,000, 20,000 token bribe. But if you do not have any political contact, the police commissioner asks for a bribe of about 3 to 5 lakh rupees. And in under any cases, not more than 500,000 new licenses are issued a year. So the law that I am proposing is that every person who does not have any criminal record will be eligible for license. He will apply for a license. Now if somebody wants him not to have a gun, then he will have to give reasons before a randomly chosen jury, and then the jury will decide if the reasons are tenable or not. So finally, right to gun will be available to all. Only jury can take away the right, and that will ensure that only rare cases, like if a person is insane, or if the person has a criminal record, or if the person has links with criminal, etc., they will not have guns. Otherwise, every citizen will have a gun. And yes, if a non-citizen is found with a gun, he will be executed. That is also in the entire draft that I have proposed. It's there on my website. So a Bangladeshi, he can take a chances. If he buys gun, well, anyway, today if he wants to buy gun, nothing is going to stop him anyway. But later, if a Bangladeshi is caught with a gun, then using this particular law, that if a foreign national is having a gun without permission, he can be executed, then under this clause, he will face punishment of execution. So, weaponization of commons, how can we bring it? By TCP. TCP I have described in section 1.3. And once TCP is printed in the Gazette, we can pass the laws related with which can bring weaponization of us commons. And in this video, I discussed the advantages of weaponization, historically speaking. Mahatma Gandhi, only in this video I will call him Mahatma because he said a good thing, although he never meant it. He demanded that right to bear gun be made fundamental right in 1931. Mahatma Gandhi, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Jawaharlal, all three of them. And in Congress Adhiveshan. So it was an important political event. So we should keep that promise. Whether they wanted to keep it or it is another matter, but we should keep their promise and make right to bear gun a fundamental right. And right to bear gun is the mother of welfare state. It is mother of freedom from foreigners. It is mother of freedom from your own government. It reduces crime, and also it is the most effective deterrent against foreign government attacking. Example is Switzerland. Hitler did not attack Switzerland only because everyone in Swiss have guns. So law in Switzerland is that every person should have a gun and 24 bullets. The law I am proposing is that every citizen must have gun and 240 bullets. Thank you.